Hi, I'm Sue and this is Simmery P. I'm going to share my recipe for how to make spelt hot dog buns. I've been trying to perfect this recipe for a good few months now. I had a request from one of my viewers, could I make spelt hot dog buns? I hadn't made them before and I thought, yeah, I'll just swap my, burger bun recipe into this. Didn't really work. So I've had to rework it a few times, but I finally perfected it. So if you'd like to see how I make my spelt hot dog buns, come with me and let's see. So step one, you need to warm up some liquid. I've got 100 mils of water and 120 mils of warm milk. I'm just using whole milk today. And I've just warmed that up on my stovetop, just so it's warm to touch, like lukewarm. If you've got a microwave, you can zap it in the microwave. And today I'm going to use a combination of white spelt and whole grain spelt. So I need a total of 400 grams. And I don't do cups because I like doing exact measurements for bread making. So it's 250 of white. And I'm going to do 150 of whole grain spelt. And this whole grain is quite fine. If you've got a whole grain spelt flour that's got more grain in it, you might want to sift it because sometimes the grainy bits can make your bread a little bit dense. But if you like that, that's fine. So we've got our 400 grams there. I'll just move my flour out of the way. Into this, I'm going to use just instant yeast, 7 grams. It's usually about 2 to 2.5 teaspoons. So that's in there. So then I just whisk that together. Then I pop it on my stand mixer, or you can do it by hand if you prefer. I don't have very strong hands, so I find that this is easier. So then I just start it on low. And as it's moving around, I start pouring my liquid in. But I don't pour all the liquid in. I reserve about that much, just in case I don't need it. Then I've also got an egg here, which I've beaten up just with my fork. But I'm going to reserve 2 teaspoons of it for my egg wash. I always find I never use a whole egg, and this kind of just works better. It's hard to get it out. About 3 teaspoons, that should be enough. So I'm going to throw my egg in there now. And then what I find works really well with this kind of bread is some olive oil. So I add in 1 to 2 tablespoons, but I do one at a time. It just makes the dough lovely and moist, and I prefer it to butter. I'm going to knead all that liquid. So I'm just going to pour it all in. So that was a total of 220 mils. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt. Now I'm going to bump the speed up and knead it for 5 minutes. And I like to do a little bit of a cleanup while that's happening. So what I found recently is I like to transfer my dough into this bowl, so then I can see it rising, and I know when it reaches near the top, it's doubled in size. So I'll add a little bit of oil to the bowl. Or you can, this is just the sunflower oil. And you can either cover it with a cloth or a bit of plastic. I'm going to use a little bit of plastic wrap today. Let's just check our dough. So that's looking really good. It's still got a few little bumpy bits. We need to make sure it's nice and smooth. So I've got another just over 2 minutes. I'm going to keep it going. So look at that, our dough is nice and smooth. So what I like to do is I grab a little bit of oil and pop it on my hands, or you can use flour. I just like the moisturizing feel of oil. And I take this off the dough hook. And a good sign that your dough is ready is that you have a super clean bowl. So then I've got my oiled bowl here, and I just manipulate my dough ball now. Not too much kneading. I just pop it into like a roundish ball, and then I put the plastic over the top. So the next step is you just need to leave this dough ball that's covered to rest in a warm spot away from any drafts. Our kitchen here is nice and warm. We're about 21 degrees in our house, 20 degrees. So we'll leave that for an hour until it doubles in size. But while you're waiting for your dough ball, I'll get your tray ready. So I bought this new 10 by 15 inch baking tray with sides, and I love doing the hot dog buns in this. I have done it before in, I'll just show you, that tray, which is a little bit bigger, with no deep size. But I find this is better because then the dough has something to, or the bread has something to lean against when it rises. So what I do is I oil the bottom, just push it around with my hands, or you can grease it with butter. That's probably a bit generous then. And just so I don't have clean up, I just put some paper in here. So I've just cut some paper to size and just smooth out the sides. And then that's ready for our hot dog buns. And I do 2 rows and I do 4 by 2. It's been an hour and look at our dough. We've got like a dome on our plastic and it's doubled in size. Let's do the finger test. It makes a dint but then rises back slowly. So we need to get our scrapers. I forgot to get my scrapers out. So I've got 2. I've got a plastic one and then I use a metal one. This one's great to help cut the dough, and I like the feel of this one. But before we bring the dough out, I need to flour the bench. I've just recently discovered that I like rice flour on the bench when I'm dividing my spelt dough. But if you don't have rice flour, yeah, just use spelt flour. I've got my scales on standby because I like to make sure my dough's evenly divided. So just make sure that is on 0. So grab your dough out of the bowl. And the dividing part always seems a bit daunting. And look, I'm no expert. I'm not a trained baker. I've just taught myself. But what I've found is the more you do it, practice makes perfect. Well, not perfect, but just better. So don't be scared. And bread's really forgiving. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. So just stretch it out slightly. And we're going to roll it and start dividing it. So I need 8 pieces. So let's do a rough divide now. And then I just double check it. 86. 83. Okay, they're roughly the same size. So what I do is I stretch the dough out and then I stretch it into a tight ball like I'm doing with my other buns, but I grab a little bit of the flour away from the bench and then I just start rolling it to be like a sausage. And then I tighten the ends off with my hands. And then this is 14 centimetres long. So I roughly just pop it on there and go, yep, that's near enough. And then I add it to my tray with about 1 centimetre, which is about my finger apart, because I want them to bump up against each other because then they become softer. So I'll continue to do this. So just flatten it, then stretch it back into a ball. And if you've got like a little seam that you see on the bottom, that's fine. Just make sure it's on the bottom. But these will rise again for 30 minutes and it kind of sorts themselves out. Well, that's what I've found. So just double check it on that. And I can kind of manipulate it a little bit to stretch it a bit longer. But as I said before, they don't have to be perfect. So they're my little hot dog dough balls or dough buns. So now I'm going to cover it and let it rise again for the second rise for 30 minutes. I like to do plastic wrap. I know it's not environmentally friendly, but it creates a more humid environment, or you can cover it with a damp tea towel. So I'm going to use this piece that I had before. So I'm going to add a little bit of oil to that so then it doesn't stick to my buns. But I'll need 2 pieces. And just to give it a little bit more security. I'm going to just cover it with the cloth as well. This one's just a dry one. So I'm going to pop my timer on for 30 minutes. And while that's resting, it's a good idea to get your oven warm. So I know half an hour seems a lot, but I forget otherwise. So I'm going to pop my oven on now to 190 degrees fan forced, and I'll pop the Fahrenheit measurement above. We're back with our hot dog buns, and I've zoomed you in because I'm a one-man camera girl, and I'm just going to show you close up how I wash them. You can see how they've morphed together, and then they'll even rise and get closer together when they're in the oven. So grab that leftover egg that you had before, and I've just added a dash of water just to thin it out, and just lightly brush the tops. We don't want to disturb any of that lovely fluffiness that we've just created. If you forget to use part of the egg, you can add milk if you don't have a spare egg, or you can just crack another egg open. Try not to knock it like I just did. And then just for fun, I've got sesame seeds and I'm going to sprinkle them on top. Just a few. But you don't have to do that, because most hot dog buns don't have sesame seeds, but I just love sesame seeds. So we've prepped and sprinkled, and now we're ready to place these in a warm oven. It's really hot. We've had it heating up for about 10 to 12 minutes. And what I like to do, I like to add a little bit of water to a ramekin and place it at the bottom of the oven. Just creates a little bit of steam and creates a nice moisture for the buns. I'll pop the timer over 10 minutes, come and check them and see if they're all golden brown. That's the 10-minute timer. I'm just going to check them. I think they need it about 2 or 4 more minutes. So I'll pop the timer over 2 minutes. And that's my timer. So let's have a look at them now. Oh, I think they're good. Lovely and golden. Now I could have had them a little bit closer together so they joined in the middle as well, but they're fine. And I'm just going to let them rest for 10 minutes before I start dividing them. You can kind of eat them straight away after the 10 minutes, but it's usually good with bread to let it sit for about an hour before you tuck into it. I've let my hot dog buns cool for about 10 minutes. So I've just sliced one open and they're beautiful and soft. And I'm going to do a little taste test for you. Just popping butter on. I know it's naughty, but bread with butter tastes delicious. I don't have any hot dogs in the house, so we're just going to eat them like bread rolls. They're so lovely and soft and spongy. The next day, they may go like a little bit hard, but you can either heat them up in the oven or pop them in the toaster, like cut them in half and pop them in the toaster. Or after they've cooled, you can wrap them individually and pop them in the freezer and just grab them out when you need them. I hope you've enjoyed my video today. Hit the thumbs up, which is a like, that really helps. And if you're new here today and you love this kind of video, don't forget to subscribe and let me know if you give this recipe a go. And stick around, I'll pop some other of my spelt buns and spelt bread recipes above. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. Yum, yum, yum.